A leading property group says there will be a steady improvement in the housing market over the next year as the country's biggest lender changes its rules on how it lends. Andrew and Nicola Forrest donate $5 billion to their own charity, and Qantas falls from 5th to 17th in the latest rankings of world airlines. It's Thursday, the 22nd of June, 2023. Welcome to Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
You know what today is, don't you, Sean?
It's Thursday. It's the 22nd of June. We're past the winter solstice. How do they afford that? Came out yesterday. What else?
It was the winter solstice. It was technically it was early this morning, I believe.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
That's right. It was at about 2 a.m. or so this morning, I think. But anyway, it just means that from now on,
days get longer.
Yep, the days get longer and everything gets a little bit brighter. Speaking of bright, Sean, we've got a great interview, very, very positive interview with Dr. Nicola Powell, Chief of Research and Economics at Domain, coming up after the show.
Yes, it's all about the main story, so I don't want to say too much, but she is definitely upbeat about prospects for house prices and unit prices in many of the capital cities across the country.
Well, as you say, that is the main story this morning. The Australian property market is headed for a steady recovery over the next year with house prices. I find this remarkable. In some cities, they are tipped to be back to record levels by the middle of next year.
That's according to the Domain forecast report, which is released today. It says house prices in Sydney, Adelaide and Hobart will achieve the biggest gains. Sydney, Adelaide and Perth homes could be trading around record levels within 12 months. In the unit market, prices in Brisbane, Adelaide and Hobart are forecast to reach new highs. That's pretty remarkable, given we are still in a rising interest rate environment. Overall, the report says that houses will do a bit better than units. Regional Australia is expected to return to a more traditional price pattern with a slower pace of growth anticipated compared to the capital cities. Of the capital cities, Domain forecasts that Melbourne's recovery will be most sluggish for house prices, up just 0 to 2% over the next 12 months, while unit prices in that city may still fall. Ways to go there. Canberra is also expected to underperform most other capital cities.
Sean, it's good news, obviously, for homeowners that prices have bottomed and are now rising. Is this all because of immigration?
It's partly because of immigration. Population pressure is definitely the main consideration, reckons Domain's Chief of Research and Economics, Nicola Powell, who we will be talking to straight after the show. The push to lift temporary and permanent visa grants to alleviate skills shortages, as well as international students, is pretty much behind the jump in migration. There's also a lack of new supply in many areas of the country. That part of the equation is having different effect in different geographies. One factor that will keep a lid on prices, though, is affordability, Powell says. And another factor to keep a watch on is serviceability buffers. How much extra a borrower insists a lender has and is able to pay before giving them a loan. It's been very controversial, that one.
Yeah, and on that issue, Commonwealth Bank yesterday said it's going to reduce the serviceability buffer on some loans from 3% to 1%.
Interesting, because regulators really don't want lenders to do that. The lower buffer will apply to refinancing applications only. It will only apply to borrowers who have not missed repayments in the past year and where the loan is less than 80% of the property's value. In that instance, that would be the majority of loans that the Commonwealth Bank has. The change has been made to help borrowers who have found themselves unable to refinance because they no longer meet the higher buffer hurdle following the jump in rates. That issue has become known as the mortgage prison. And of course, it's all about coming off those low fixed rate loans onto much, much more expensive variable rate loans. And because of that serviceability buffer, not being able to afford them. Anyway, Commonwealth Bank's doing something about that.
Is it odd that the Commonwealth Bank would go against the wishes of the regulators? And is it just because Commonwealth is just so big and they have the ability to do it?
Yes. So what I probably didn't realise until this story was that the regulators say that's what they want, but the banks obviously don't have to do it. And what this does mean is that it's kind of a smart competition play by Commonwealth Bank, because they can say, hey, don't go somewhere else because we'll actually put a lower serviceability buffer on you, so you will be able to get a home loan from us. So it's good. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the other banks follow suit, but it is somewhat unusual to go against the regulators.
Yeah, it feels like now that one has defied the regulators, then it may well have set a precedent. So stand by. We may see some others follow.
Yes, it's to be honest, I'm not quite sure technically what the regulators can do in terms of enforcing that serviceability buffer. My homework, Michael, my homework.
Oh, excellent. I like the sound of that. What happened in local markets yesterday, Sean?
The S&P ASX 200 closed down 0.6% to 7,315 points, ending a 7-session run there. Now, that followed a weak lead-in from Wall Street. Among the large caps, Macquarie Group was one of the worst, off 2.6%. Woodside Energy and Fortescue Metals were both off close to 2%. Bunch of companies off 1% or more: BHP, Westpac, Wesfarmers, Transurban, Rio, Goodman Group. I would say that's a widespread fall, Michael. The consumer stocks were very much out of favour on the back of fears about the decline in consumer spending. Premier Investments, think Smiggles and Peter Alexander and places like that. Its share price fell 4.6%. JB Hi-Fi was down 2.3%. Super Retail was off 2.6%, but worst on the day was Flight Centre. It dropped nearly 7%. Mind you, there was some good news. A bunch of stocks hit new highs or multi-year highs yesterday. The insurers, QBE, IAG and Suncorp, all fit into that category. Remember, they've been able to push through higher premiums. They pay out good dividends. Kind of a good call for some investors at the moment. Woolworths was another, with its share price reaching $40.42. That's its highest in nearly 2 years. Woolies' share price is up more than 20% this year. Telstra hit a multi-year high of $4.46, and cloud accounting software group Xero hit a 52-week high. So certainly wasn't all bad news yesterday.
No, there's a bit happening. What about international markets?
The Aussie dollar has had a tougher time of it in recent sessions. Expectations that China will provide significantly more stimulus just haven't been met yet, and that's weighed on the Aussie dollar. Of course, Australia does well when China does well because we sell so much stuff to them. When people aren't paying as much for our stuff, the Aussie dollar depreciates. Also, the Reserve Bank board's minutes released this week suggest the central bank is a little less gun-ho on lifting rates. That also worked against the Aussie. It's trading under 68 US cents in commodity prices. Oil is up, gold is down, and coal fell yet again. It's hit another 2-year low.
All right, plenty going on. We'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. Sean, Telstra and TPG Telecom will not be able to share infrastructure in regional Australia after the Competition Tribunal upheld a decision to block a deal between the two.
It's a victory for the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission that had argued the $1.8 billion agreement between the two would entrench Telstra's dominance and hurt mobile services. Yesterday, the Australian Competition Tribunal concluded that the deal would increase Telstra's strength relative to Optus. The agreement would have allowed TPG to use Telstra's mobile towers in regional areas, while Telstra would get access to TPG spectrum, which is used to transmit call and internet signals. Michael O'Brien, the chair of the tribunal, said the market was already highly concentrated and the partnership would likely increase Telstra's strength in regional areas. But Telstra Chief Executive Vicky Brady said it was actually uneconomic at times to build transmission lines in some areas of the nation. Yesterday's announcement will impede the use of 5G and the upcoming 6G spectrum, she said. Potentially the biggest loser in all this is TPG. Its share price fell 6% yesterday.
Sean, the biggest shareholder in AGL Energy, billionaire Mike Cannon-Brookes, has sold down his stake to free up money for investments in clean energy.
Yeah, he freed up almost $50 million, as you do. Cannon-Brookes, who is co-founder of Atlassian, said the power company remains his largest investment. He's also the largest shareholder in AGL. His company, Grok Ventures, said it remains supportive of the energy group, adding that AGL should accelerate its exit from coal-fired power generation. Cannon-Brookes, of course, surprised everyone in May last year. He bought into the company. He eventually owned almost 11.3% of AGL. It allowed him to lead a campaign to stop management's plan to split the company in two. Ultimately, his success led to an implosion in the top management and board of the company and an accelerated plan for closing coal power stations. Grok now owns 10.4% of AGL, according to a statement released yesterday.
Rio Tinto will invest more than $900 million to increase copper production and processing at its operations in Utah in an effort to take advantage of the expected jump in prices of the metal.
Sorry, can you just say that state name again?
I get very excited when I do US states. In Utah.
Utah.
Okay. Trivia question for you, Sean. 3 US states that all have 4-letter names. Utah is obviously one of them. What are the other 2?
I'm going Utah, Iowa, Ohio.
Well done. You nailed it. Congratulations.
Oh,
you may now proceed.
Excellent. Rio set aside around $730 million to expand the Kennecott underground mine and will spend another $175 million to upgrade processing. Kennecott is the second largest copper producer in the US. In May, Rio approved a $300 million rebuild on a smelter at the site near Salt Lake City in Utah. Copper, of course, is a key commodity for the transition away from fossil fuels toward renewable energy, and some market analysts expect demand to soar without a matching increase in supply, at least in the short term, hence prices will go up. Rio says the increased investment will lead to an expected 250,000 tonnes of additional mined copper over the next 10 years. Now, Michael, can you give me 6 or 7 countries starting with the letter I?
Ireland, India, Indonesia, Iraq and Iran.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to come back to you on some others.
Righto.
That's a great trivia question, though.
Yeah, it is. Iceland.
Oh, good one. But you're not allowed to nominate them. You've got the answers in front of you, I'm assuming.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. The PwC saga, Sean, continues. It feels like it's been going on for some time now. We've got Parliament demanding that PwC name the 63 partners and staff caught up in the firm's tax leak scandal.
The Senate's Finance and Public Administration Committee's interim report released yesterday reportedly calls for the firm to make the list of names public. It includes the list of current and former partners and staff who received at least one email based on confidential information from the Federal Treasury, including advice to clients on how to sidestep new multinational tax avoidance laws, relying on leaked intelligence from disgraced tax partner Peter Collins. PwC argues that the group of partners and staff were not aware the emails were based on confidential information and should not be publicly identified.
Australians support the resumption of contact between Australian and Chinese leaders as a positive step, Sean, according to Lowy Institute polling and research.
But that doesn't mean Australians trust President Xi Jinping, with the Chinese leader and his country near the bottom of Australians' lists of trusted leaders and superpowers. Lowy Institute Director Michael Fullilove said Australians' sharply declining perceptions of China have levelled out as the relationship between the two countries stabilises. A slight majority still perceive China as a security threat compared to an economic partner, although the threat perception has dropped markedly from a year ago. But 3 in 4 Australians believe it's very or somewhat likely that China will become a military threat to Australia in the next 20 years. While wholly supportive of the United States alliance, Australians are wary that being part of the pact could draw the nation into war in Asia. Overall, 83% of Australians approve of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's handling of foreign policy. What I find amazing about that, it's the highest score out of any of the past 5 leaders.
Wow. That's actually quite remarkable, considering he wasn't someone who was expected to really excel on the international stage, more of a domestic politician.
Yeah, a real surprise.
Italy, Sean. I completely missed it.
Italy.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember what we said now. So we've got Italy, India, Ireland, Iraq, Iran, Iceland,
Indonesia, India. Did I say that? Yes.
Oh, yeah. We'll say it again, though.
I think we're pretty well there, aren't we?
Surely.
Israel?
Excellent. Well done.
There can't be many more. I'm going to have to Google it now. Sean, Australia's richest man, Andrew Forrest, and his wife, Nicola, have donated almost $5 billion worth of Fortescue Metals Group shares to their own charity, the Minderoo Foundation.
The couple confirmed they would donate 1/5 of their shareholding in Fortescue, 220 million shares, to Minderoo to create what they called lasting change and the greatest possible good, according to a story in the Financial Review. The Minderoo Foundation supports marine and medical research, Indigenous programs, as well as the anti-slavery project Walk Free, which is run by their daughter, Grace. The donation takes Minderoo's endowment to about $7.6 billion up from $2.6 billion, with the foundation expected to release a long-term strategy in coming months. Now, the funding is expected to increase money available in these work streams rather than Minderoo necessarily branching into new areas. Forrest said, this is Andrew Forrest, said charities and foundations to whom the family had given Fortescue stock in the past had always done better if they had held the shares and grown on the dividends rather than selling stock. The point there is that we're not going to see a wholesale bunch of Fortescue shares on the market because basically Forrest is saying Minderoo is going to keep them and live off the dividends.
All right, turning to international news now, and former US President Donald Trump said he did not turn over presidential records to the National Archives because he was busy and had not yet had time to remove personal items from boxes packed at the White House.
Trump was charged earlier this month and pleaded not guilty on 37 felony counts related to his retention of classified documents and obstruction of justice. The federal government recovered more than 300 documents with classified markings from Trump after he left the White House, including from an FBI search of his Mar-a-Lago resort in August 2022. This is where it gets interesting, Michael. During an interview with Fox News, Trump was asked about a portion of the indictment that alleges he ordered an aide to move documents after they were requested by the government. He responded saying he wanted to take his things out of the boxes first, and I quote, "These boxes were interspersed with all sorts of things, golf shirts, clothing, pants, shoes. There were many things."
So hang on. In this box, there are government documents, then maybe a pair of pants, then some more government documents, and then a pair of shoes. It's a very odd packing style, isn't it?
Very odd.
Now, Sean, we mentioned this next one at the top of the show. The annual Skytrax Awards have been announced, and these are obviously global ratings of airlines. Always a pub trivia favourite for me, these ones, because you get some good questions out of this. But Singapore Airlines has been named number one. But a big mover, in the wrong direction, mind you, was Qantas, which went from the 5th best airline in the world to number 17.
You've got to work hard to do that. Oh. You can't just go from 5 to 17 without trying, surely.
It's taken a bit of effort, hasn't it?
Now, these awards are pretty well regarded because they're based on thousands of passenger satisfaction surveys. Singapore came in at number one, leapfrogging Qatar Airways. Fiji Air was named the best carrier for the Asia-Pacific region, relegating Qantas to second. I've flown Fiji Air. They were fantastic.
Well, I will be flying Fiji Air in November, and I'm very much looking forward to it now.
Yeah.
I mean, I was before as well, but now I'm even more so.
So Qatar Airways claimed the best business class airline, while Singapore Airlines won the best first class. And Eva Air, it's a Taiwanese airliner, it was the best premium economy cabin. Best economy class cabin went to JAL, Japan Airlines. That was ahead of Qatar Airways, followed by Singapore Airlines, Emirates and Virgin Atlantic. I thought I'd better give the economy top five because, let's face it, that's how you and I fly. Qatar, Singapore, Emirates, Virgin Atlantic. Not as good as Japan Airlines. Anyway, Qantas was 13th in the business class category, 6th in the premium economy, 11th in first class. And where I sit, economy class came in 13th. The other big mover in the wrong direction was British Airways, while those climbing the ladder included Cathay Pacific, Eva Air we mentioned, and Fiji Air. Finally, also, because this one's for you, Michael, most family-friendly airline went to Air Canada.
Oh.
Garuda Indonesia won Best Cabin Crew. I like that one. And Air Asia, again, won the world's Best Low-Cost Carrier award.
That's a fantastic story, and I'll give you a full report in November on what I thought of Fiji Airways.
Excellent.
Now, up next is the Fear and Greed Daily interview with Nicola Powell from Domain.
Yes, all about what's going to happen to house prices and unit prices across the country.
Yeah, it's a really good chat. It's coming up next in the Fear and Greed playlist on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Thursday, the 22nd of June, 2023. Make sure you're following the podcast. Join us online on LinkedIn and Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and stay up to date on all the business news with Alexa and your Amazon Echo smart speaker. Simply say, Alexa, play the Fear and Greed podcast to catch the latest episode. You can get yours now at amazon.com.au. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great day.